Hello everyone, welcome to College Xpedition. So in our topic today, we are going to cover subject-verb agreement. So have you ever asked yourself when you are faced to find answers related to subject-verb agreement, sometimes it's difficult to say which one is the answer. And especially when you are dealing with TOEFL in the second session structure, you are often asked questions related to subject and verb agreement. And if you don't understand theories related to this, it's going to give you a headache, or you're going to spend more time to be able to finish or to find out which one basically is the answer. So this video that I make today is to give you a good understanding on how to notice subject-verb agreement on questions on the TOEFL part session 2. Okay, before we're going to answer 10 questions in the end of the video, I would like first to point out some basic knowledge that you need to know in order to understand what subject-verb agreement is really about. Okay, so when you understand subject-verb agreement, oftentimes the question is in simple present. It means you need to understand that singular and plural take different things when it comes to the verb. So as you can see here, for the first person, the verb will not have any s in the end. Similar to second person, it doesn't need an s to be put in the end of the verb. But when it comes to the third person, and this is what you really need to remember, he, she, it, the verb needs to have an s in the end. But it's only for he, she, and it. But for the plural one, you don't have to. But another thing that needs to be remembered as well, that the verb has to end either with s or with es. For example, the verb with an and y in the end, you change it into I, then you add e and s. So it becomes tries. And most of the verbs you only need to add s. And if you find have and has, you need to choose has for he, she, and it, but then you choose have for I, we, you, and they. So that basic rule. So what you are going to do now is that you want to make an agreement, because here the topic is you have to agree, the subject has to agree with the verb, and the verb has to agree with the subject. Then what it means by the subject-verb agreement. There are some exceptions that you need to always remember. So when, for example, you find anybody, anyone, each, either, everybody, everyone, everything, neither, no one, someone, or something, pretty often you need to add an s after a verb. We'll look at it more specifically in the example. So one, or the first rule that you have to remember, is that make the verb agree with its subject. not with a word in between. So what does it really mean? So look at here, high levels. So you also find here pollution. So which one is basically a subject? Sorry. So here, don't get confused. The subject is actually levels. So because it is plural, then the verb should be plural as well. That's what we call the subject-verb agreement. So do not be mistaken for pollution, because pollution here can't be a subject, because the reason is that here is a preposition, and then a word after a preposition can't be a subject. We call it object of preposition. So you cannot make it a subject. So here, the reason why cause doesn't have as, because high levels is with as. So here plural, and then you have to make the verb plural too. So when, for example, you have or, nor, either, or neither, you have to think about the subject that is near to the verb. What does it mean? It means, for example, here, let's look at the example. A driver's license or credit card is required. So why the answer is here? So when here you have or, what you need to do is to look at a subject that is close to the verb. So the verb here is, because the card is singular. So you have to have is. But if card has an s, cards, plural, then here you need to have are. And the same thing when you have neither and also nor here. So your subject must be the one that is near the verb. So the students is plural here, then your answer should be were. But if student without as, you need to have was here. Okay, so that's the second rule. And as I mentioned earlier, if you find one of these in a question, always remember these all take a singular verb. So for example here, everybody who signed up for the snowboarding trip was. So was is a singular, or you can also use is depending on the context. Everyone on the team supports the coach. So supports must have an as, because everyone. So always remember, when you find these in a sentence, the verb should be singular, always singular. So number 4, if you find all, any, none, and some, you may have singular or plural verb depending on the noun or pronoun they refer to. Okay, let's look at what it means. So the first example, some of our luggage was lost. So here luggage is without as. It means the context here is singular. So because this is singular, we need to have a singular verb as well, was here. But if luggage is plural, then you have to have were, even though here some. So it might depend on what's coming after of. Or for noun, of his advice. So look at here, advice is a singular, then the verb is also a singular. In case the advice here is a plural, then you need to have a plural verb without s here. Make the verb agree with the subject even when the subject follows the verb. So in the context of you find there, It's going to depend on whether after there is or there are. If, for example, here you look at there are, so here should be plural as well, few children. But if there is, surprisingly, then you need to have here child. There is a child. And also here there were a social worker and a crew of 20 volunteers. So here two, a social worker and a crew. So that's the reason why we need to have were. But for words such as athletics, economics, Miss Lass, and news are usually singular despite their plural form. So always remember, if you find this kind of words, it needs to have a singular verb. So for example, statistic is, we cannot make it statistics are, even though there is an S here. But you have to remember, it is a word that functions as a singular. Number 7, for the titles of works, companies' names, words mentioned as words, and gerund phrases are also singular. So for example here, Lost Cities describes the discoveries of many ancient civilizations. So here, even though Lost Cities has an ES, it doesn't mean it's plural. Okay, so this is the name and refer to a singular, then we have to have a singular verb as well. Second example, Delmonico brothers specialize. So it refers to one person. Okay, so that's the reason why we call specialize with as, because it has to agree with the subject. So it's basically one. Okay, so here needs to have as to make it agree with the verb. So subject and verb agreement has to agree each other. The eighth rule is that the collective noun, such as team, audience, crowd, class, family, they are normally singular, unless the meaning is clearly plural. So let's look at the two examples. The singular one, for example here, the class respects the teacher. So the word class here is singular. That's the reason why the verb has an as in the end. The board of trustees meets. So the board here is a singular as well, and the verb should have as to agree with the subject. But when it's plural, look at the example, the class are debating amongst themselves. So here, themselves says that the class is actually the plural in terms of the meaning. So that's, we need to have are here, even though the class doesn't have es. And also we can change this context. The class members are debating among themselves. So it is much clearer now. Okay, so those are the things as we consider rules. So now we're going to answer exercise number 1 to number 10. Okay, so this exercise 1 will ask you to choose one answer in the parentheses. You have to choose one. Okay, let's do it together now. So there is one example that has been done. Everyone in the telecom focus group has experienced problem with the cell phones. So because everyone needs to have a plural verb, a singular verb, and then we have to have has. We cannot choose have for everyone. Okay, number 1. Your friendship over the years and your support has or have. So here, look at the subject. Identify the subject first. So the subject here is your friendship. So friendship doesn't have s. It means singular. Okay, so because it's singular, what do we need to do? Okay, so we need to have, what is the answer? The answer is has. Okay, the answer is has. Why? Because friendship is singular. Okay, remember, friendship is singular. Okay, I'll put a mark here so that you know. Okay, number 2, or the second number, Hamilton Family Center, a shelter for teenage runaways in San Francisco, offers or offer a wide variety of services. So let's identify the subject first. Hamilton Family Center. So here is a subject. Look at the center. Center is without s. Then we know that the answer is, so what is the answer? The answer is offers. Okay. So, sorry. So we know that the answer has to have s in the end. It needs to agree with the subject, and the subject is a singular, and then the verb should have s. Okay, let's get moving. Number 3. The main source of income for Trinidad is or are oil and pitch. Okay, again, let's analyze the subject first. So where's the subject here? Can you find? So the main source is a subject. Do not be confused by of. Of here is preposition. So the word after preposition, we call it object of preposition, and it can't be a subject. So because source doesn't have as in the end, so our answer is clear. Okay, the answer is really clear that it is. Okay, because this is singular, it has to have singular verb as well. And number 4, the changes of you're being promoted is or are excellent. Okay, so where is the subject? So again, the subject is the changes. So there is e and s, it means plural, and because it's plural, then it's really clear the answer are. Okay, here is the answer are, because here is a plural. Okay, number 5. Okay, number 5, there were a Pokemon card stuck to the refrigerator. Okay, here, because you have there, and then the subject should be after that. Okay, so whether you want to choose was or were, you have to look at the subject first. So here is a subject, a Pokemon card. So the card without s. So it's clear because there's no s, then we know the answer should be was. Number 6, so here is neither. Okay, still remember the rule with neither. If you have neither, you have to look at a subject that is close to the subject. Okay, look at a verb that is close to the subject. Okay, here is, sorry, here is a subject, his assistants, and it's close to the verb because it has as, then you can guess the answer. The answer should also agree with the subject. So because this is as, so it means plural, and there, your answer here is this, were. Okay, so do not get confused by the professor, because what you need to do is that to find the subject that is close to the verb. Okay, number 7. Okay, number 7, many hours at the driving range has or have led us to design golf balls with GPS locators in them. Okay, let's look at the subject first. So here is the subject, many hours, and don't get confused by at the driving range, because the range is not a subject. Why? Because here it's a preposition. What's coming after a preposition, we call it object of preposition, and it can't be a subject. So here, you are clear to choose the answer should be have. Why have? Because many hours, plural, and then you have to have plural verb as well. Number 8, discovered in the soil of our city garden was or were a button dating from the Civil War, dating from the turn of the century. So here, even though the question looks longer, you don't have to be confused. What you need to do with a question like this, you know that a subject is after a verb. So here is a subject, a button. A button is basically singular. So when a subject is a singular, you know the answer, you should find a singular verb as well. So here, sorry, I chose the wrong one. So here is your answer, was. Again, why? Because a button is a singular here. So number 9, okay, let's look at number 9 now. Every year during the Midsummer Festival, the smoke of village bonfires fills or fill the sky. Okay, now what we need to do again to identify the subject. The subject is here, okay, so here is our subject, the smoke. Okay, the smoke here is plural, even though there is no S, okay, because it's plural, then we have to choose a verb that is plural as well. So our answer here is fail. All right, the last number, the story performance was or were surrounded by children and adults eager to see magical tales. Okay, our subject is, okay, this is the story performance. So performance, performers with S. So you are clear here to decide the answer should be plural as well. So your answer is were. Okay, so now that you have all answers for each of the questions, and you know for the subject-verb agreement, you have to choose a subject and you have to agree with the verb, or in all the words, the verb itself has to agree with the subject. If it's singular, and then you have to choose a singular verb. You have to choose is, or you have to choose has, or you have to add s or es after a verb. That is the rule. And with the neither, either, or nor, you have to look at the subject that is close to the verb, so that you have to choose whether it's singular or plural depending on the subject itself. And also, if you have there, look at after that, because the subject itself will come after there, whether there is a card or there are cards. It might always depend. Okay, so this is the lessons for today. So it's about subject-verb agreement. I hope this video helps you and it presents a good understanding of subject-verb agreement. So if you have any question, feel free to make comment below the video. And for the next video, we're going to cover another subject. Thank you so much for watching this video.